Welcome, low ego action heroes. This is Debbie Levitt from DeltaCX.com. We're a full service everything CX and UX consultancy and agency. If you think there's something we can do for you, check us out and let me know. Hello from another show from my working vacation, so please excuse the set. It's not as glamorous as it was a few days ago. We are at a new campground and we have a small pitch with other people around us, and I didn't want to be outside yapping away. So hopefully you don't mind the inside camper look. You can even see me in my own rear view mirror. So welcome to people who are joining live or watching this later. And of course, as always, I want to thank everybody who's donating to the channel in small and large ways, past, present, and future, by clicking that join button on YouTube. Totally optional, but always appreciated. So as always, the Critical Thinking Show is made possible by you because you send stuff in and I collect it for a couple of weeks and then we go through it. So you can send stuff in for future shows at deltacx.com/links. I save those up and then we go through them. So I think today we have like 7 things to go through, and that's what we'll do. This is an audience participation show, so I'm hoping that my chat is working. The Stream Elements bot says it's running, and if you're here, let me know. Say hi so I can see that the chat is working. We should be seeing people from YouTube and LinkedIn all together on the chat. And then we'll jump over to my browser window so we can take a look at some of the things that you've been sending in the last couple of weeks. All right, Kelby's here. Hi, that helps me know I am alive and on the air. So let me press a couple of buttons and get us over to things. Oh, yeah, I don't have my remote control set up, so I'll have to do this very manually. Hi, Costa. Okay, so that means that's my screen sharing, and now I'll flip over to this. So you should be able to see me and the optional tip jar and the chat room above me, the chat, and my browser with lots of stuff. And then at the top, I'm keeping an eye, hi Cam, on this stream one because that would tell me that our stream is healthy. If it turns yellow, I know I'm blipping. So I want to make sure I know. Now, this is the last article we're going to go through, so let's start with the first one. The first thing that someone sent in was this meme that someone had posted to Instagram, and it says, everyone, AI will replace designers' job. AI accepting the job. And so I think Dr. Nick sent this to me, gosh, what feels like 2 months ago. I think I posted it to LinkedIn at some point, and this is based on the unfortunate, probably still current truth. Anyone can tell me if this has gotten better, that a lot of AI. Hey, Colleen, a lot of AI that just cannot get human body parts correct. They don't know how many fingers people have. They don't know how many hands they have. And so they have these weird handshake pictures that are definitely super creepy. And I know we've talked about this one before. So thank you for sending it in. It is a good laugh. It's not anything that we can necessarily think critically about. It's not like I agree with it or disagree with it. It is kind of true, but hopefully getting better. Okay, so God, this is my LinkedIn. So someone sent in this post from someone I don't know. So I have no relationship with this person. I look like a second degree connection, and I don't know her. Cam, I just used Photoshop generative AI tool, and it's really bad capturing people. Yeah, it still is. Okay, so let's read this person's post and let's ask some of our critical thinking questions as we go. And remember, on this show, we are wondering if things are meaningful, actionable, or helpful. So that's what we want to know. As we read this, does it have meaning to you? Does it help you in any way? And is it actionable? Do you know what to do because of what this person is saying or suggesting? So let's read it. Question. Image, okay, that's probably should be imagine, but we've all made mistakes like this. Imagine you've just become a new parent. You're overwhelmed and stressed, which shows in your work performance. You decide you want to work from home part time. Who will you ask? The supervisor who also has kids early in their career or the supervisor who didn't? Study suggests you go for the latter, which would be the supervisor who didn't have kids, because people who went through a difficult experience themselves are more likely to penalize those who struggle to cope with a similar situation. What study? I assume they'll link to it at some point. Seems a little bit strange, but okay. Feels counterintuitive, no? Many would recommend the supervisor with children, as this person has been there and would probably best understand your situation. But, quote, it's harder to empathize with people if you've been in their shoes. That already seems a little bit strange to me because the idea of empathy is that whether or not we've been in someone's shoes, we are able to see their world through their eyes. We're able to say, oh, wow, I had kids or I didn't have kids, but look at what this person is going through. I see them, I understand them, I see what they need, no matter what I need, no matter what my opinion is. So, harder to empathize with people if you've been in their shoes. uh I don't know about this. I don't know how this person's going to prove this. And then my other question would be, so what? So what if someone doesn't empathize with you? That doesn't mean they don't give you a work from home part-time situation. Do people have to empathize with you in order to make a decision that benefits you? Maybe not. Hi, Johnny. Colleen says, wasn't what I expected. Counterintuitive. Well, let's see where she goes with this. It's a longer post. One of the experiments in the study looked at compassion towards someone struggling with unemployment. Participants read a story about a man who, despite his best efforts, is struggling to find a job. The ones who had overcome a period of unemployment were less compassionate and more judgmental of the man in the story. Okay, so they were less compassionate. They probably had no empathy, and they might not have even had sympathy. But what's the point here? What does this have to do with the idea of what supervisor should you ask for a remote work situation? I mean, why isn't it just your supervisor? Why do you even have a choice of supervisor? This doesn't even sound like a thing. I've never had someone come to my Tuesday show and say, hey, I've got two managers. Which one should I ask for time off for a remote work situation? So, isn't the answer here your supervisor, whether or not they've had children? I mean, what if they're a high empathy person and they've had children? Wouldn't they be more likely to say yes? I don't get this. So the author gives two arguments. Empathy gap. We have difficult recalling the impact of emotional distress. We might remember something was stressful, but in hindsight, we tend to underestimate how painful the experience was at that moment. If we have no empathy, no sympathy, no compassion, possibly even not pity. Well, where's she going with this? Because I don't see what I'm supposed to do about this. Am I supposed to now circumvent my manager to go ask someone else for remote work accommodation because I don't like that my manager has had children? Most people have had children. Am I just going to keep avoiding this person because I think my odds are better because of some study from 2015, pre-pandemic, pre-remote work? I don't get it. So, this serves as a gentle reminder to broaden your perspective and shift the focus away from your own experiences and pay greater attention to the experiences of others going through a challenging time. I have a strange feeling ChatGPT wrote this. I can just imagine the prompt. Now, can I prove that? No, maybe this person wrote this, but it seems like, give me a story about blah blah blah, citing blah blah blah. Like, did anyone check if this actually if this journal article exists? I don't know. And this person got a lot of engagement for it, and that's concerning because where's the critical thinking? Hi, Malika. So ultimately, this seems strange. I don't think that I would necessarily act on this just because there's one study that says that people are sometimes insensitive to others who went through something because they feel like they made it through, so others will make it through so they don't feel as sympathetic or empathetic or compassionate. If you need to ask for something related to your work, ask your manager. I don't think you have a choice of manager, so I kind of don't get this article. What are you going to do? Circumvent your manager? Kayleen says it's always better to, oops, I'm missing a word here. Something the original study. What does that say? Oops, now I'm really messing everything up. It's a giant me. Help. It's always better to read the original study. Yes, yes, that's probably true, but I'm not going to be doing that today. You all can, and you can get back to me and let me know how it goes. So yeah, to me, this doesn't really pass meaningful, actionable, helpful because I don't think I want to treat anybody that way. I know that I want to approach my manager based on who my manager is, not based on a study that was done in 2015. Perhaps my manager is a caring person, an empathetic person, a sympathetic person, a compassionate person. Perhaps my manager gets me. And if my manager doesn't, it won't be because of a 2015 study. So I don't really see the purpose of this. And everybody who clicked like, I would want to ask them, what'd you like about this? Are you now going to circumvent your manager to try to find someone else who's never experienced your situation? If you need a disability accommodation and your manager has the same disability, are you purposefully not going to speak to your manager and try to circumvent them? That doesn't sound like the right way to do these things. So I'm going to go with no. Okay. Someone sent me this Medium article published in Boot Camp, which I think is one of those publications that will publish anything and doesn't necessarily have standards. So you never know what you're getting here. And it says, finished the Google UX Professional Certificate. Congrats. Here's why you aren't getting hired. Now, I think in many ways we already know why those people aren't getting hired. First of all, there's roughly 800,000 of them. So it's just a sheer factor of so many people and very few UX jobs. Second of all, many of us have already determined that it's the type of course that just scratches the surface. You're probably not job ready after that certificate or course. So I wonder if this person will go into these types of reasons. I'm hoping, just from a critical thinking perspective and from an empathy perspective, hashtag empathy, sorry, not setting off my stuff today. I'm hoping he doesn't blame you. I'm hoping he doesn't say you didn't get a job because you didn't do whatever. Maybe you need to study more and learn more and keep progressing. But other than that, I really hope he doesn't blame you. Let's see. The title isn't clickbait. I'm writing this to help anyone struggling to get hired. Okay, the three main issues and how to fix them. Okay, so he's promising meaningful, actionable, helpful. Let's see if he follows through. Your portfolio projects are most likely based on a prompt for a fictional company, and you followed the same process for all of them. Why is this a problem? We want to demonstrate critical thinking, not a checklist process. The Google course does a great job of acquainting you with the design process. I would disagree. Last I heard, the Google course teaches design thinking, which isn't really a design process. It's a derivative of a design process. So yeah, so how to fix it. Learn all of the available methods and approaches. I think this would be more actionable if he told you which ones, because it sounds to me like go figure it out yourself. You know, hey, you learned one method, go learn all of them. Okay, like what? Not going to tell you. You go find it. And so I think that's unfortunate. I think that this person should have said, you know, here's some of the most commonly used methods and approaches in UX jobs. Why don't you start by learning these instead of go learn everything? So I don't feel great about that. Issue two. Either your UI skills suck like mine do, you don't know what a design system is or how to integrate it, or both. Okay, so if a lot of UX design jobs right now are really just UI jobs with a UI title and you don't have strong UI skills, sure, you might not be getting a job if it is a product design job and it's really a UI design job and it's just visual, or it's mostly visual design, branding, things like that, and you don't have strong skills there. Okay, what's he going to say? Learn everything about visual design? This is portfolio feedback he got from an agency. Lean into adopting existing design systems. We're not looking for designers with great creativity. We're looking for cues that they really understand Figma. I get scared when I see new UX patterns. So again, you can decide if that's a job that you want or not. If you, again, this may or may not be a match to the people who are subscribers of this channel and watch this channel where we're all about critical thinking. You may or may not want to say, well, I can only use pre-existing pieces. I'm never going to create something new or different, you know. So he thinks that you should do more UI coursework. Take the course from the guy who comes out against UX every chance that he can get. I'm not sure that's the one I'd recommend, but if these help you, whatever. Issue 3, you've never shipped a product before and you don't know how to work in a cross-functional team. I think that is true. I've definitely heard from people who have taken boot camps, short courses, online courses, read books, self-study, volunteering, pro bono work, and they found that even though they'd made portfolio projects out of these don't look anything like how real corporate projects work. And so they would be asked in interviews, like, how do you collaborate with developers? And they were like, I've never worked with a developer. So that's true. But if his advice is going to be go volunteer and blah, 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 we know that generally doesn't give you what you need. So what is he suggesting? Read 2 books. Articulating Design Decisions and Inspired, which is by Marty Kagan, which I believe is a book that can work against UX depending upon how people take it. Also, I believe that he's incorrect here in that if a job interview goes badly or you don't even get the interview because you haven't worked in a cross-functional team, reading 2 books is not a replacement for being on a cross-functional team and having had that experience. If someone asks you, how do you work with developers? Sure, I can give you a great answer that you can give. You can read a book and come up with a great answer that you can give. But if they say, tell me about a time that you worked with developers and there was a problem and then you made it better. If you haven't had that happen, what are you going to do? Tell a made-up story? Tell a lie? I don't recommend that. So I disagree with him that reading these 2 books fixes this. I don't think it's a fix. Reading books can be good. Books can have good information. But if the job is looking for people who have experience working on a cross-functional team and can speak to how that team operated or its process or its collaboration or its good and bad times, you won't have those stories. And so chances are you're less likely to get that interview or that job. I'm looking for mentorship. If you're a hiring manager, I'm upgrading. Does that mean he's leaving the job he's at? Wow. Karen says, articulating design decisions can be summarized in 5 minutes, not worth it. Sorry, my stream. Everybody, I'm out in the woods on my internet, doing the best I can. Yikes. Go carousel, go. I think it's coming back now. Okay, I think it's back. Hopefully my stream didn't stop. Am I streaming? Yes. Okay, thanks to everybody who stuck with me through the blip. It looks like we are still on. So let's move on to the next post. This is Vitali Friedman, who many of you are familiar with. Oh, thanks, Melanie. And this is from about 2 weeks ago. And again, everybody shout out as I read it, even though we are 40 seconds delayed. I want to hear what you think. He says, stop tracking net promotion score. Oh, Kayleen, you're private messaging me, which I'm not going to look at live on the air. Now I have to pull out my phone and see what Kayleen is saying to me. Kayleen says, you're back. Thank you, Kayleen. Thank you. Stop tracking Net Promotion Score, NPS. It has many flaws in its questions, Likert scale, and the strange score calculation, and there are better alternatives. 1. How Net Promoter Score works. The main assumption behind NPS is that business success depends on positive word of mouth. NPS is a number in the range of -100 to +100. We ask users to answer a question: how likely are you to recommend X to a friend or colleague? Responders are grouped into detractors 0 to 6, passives 7 to 8, and promoters 9 to 10. Those are the scores you give on a scale of 0 to 10. An NPS score is the percentage of promoters minus the percentage of detractors. The higher, the better. That's how you can end up with a negative number. And I explain this in my book too in chapter 8 in metrics for those of you reading Customers Know You Suck, my new book. Number 2, the science behind NPS is wacky. NPS doesn't use the mean average of the numbers received. Right, so it's not like if 100 people rate you and on average you're getting 7s, that means we have a score of 7 or 70 or 7% or 70% or whatever it is. It's the math that he just showed you above, where you have this percentage of people minus this percentage of people, and that's a number. So if 40% of people rated us really high, but 50% of people rated us really low, 40 minus 50 is -10. That would be our score. Number 3, you need large sample sizes for NPS to work. That's really true with any survey. Anytime we're running a survey, we have to look at statistical significance and we have to look at the populations we're surveying. You can also look at confidence levels. This is all available on the interwebs. You can learn all about statistical significance of these types of things. Honey, you look like you can't get out of the table. Well, by not disturbing, you're part of the show, but everybody loves you, so that works. Bye. He's leaving the camper and he says NPS. So you'd need to gather feedback from literally thousands of users because NPS survey response rate is 4 to 7%. You might need to send it to hundreds of thousands of customers. It's unpractical and makes NPS mostly irrelevant for experimentation. Sure, if you send an NPS survey to 100 people and you have thousands or tens of thousands or more customers, that's not statistically significant. Again, true for any survey. 4. NPS is fragile and hides UX success. Even if the product team has been moving mountains to improve customer experience, NPS won't accurately reflect it. Small incremental improvements should bring incremental score increases, but NPS doesn't work that way. It has very high variance and very abrupt jumps in scores. And so again, what he's saying is, for example, let's say I used to give a company a 4. I was really unhappy with them. They've made some changes, but they're still not that good. I'm now giving them a 6. In NPS world, there's no difference between a 0 and a 6. So hypothetically, even if you've made stuff better because of the way the scores are calculated, 0 and 6 are the same, 7 and 8 are the same, 9 and 10 are the same. So depending if you go from a 7 to an 8, it might not be reflected in your score because they're lumped together. So I think he's making good points. I think it's meaningful. I think it's helpful. I'm not sure it's actionable other than the action is start talking to your coworkers about not relying on NPS, but I can't really disagree with him yet. So let's see what he's saying. Number 5, NPS captures only the most recent activity. Customer loyalty is a long play. It's about how someone behaves over a long period of time, yet NPS is skewed to the most recent user's experience. As Jared Spool suggests, the best research questions are about past behavior, not future behavior. Okay, so this one's a little bit funky. There's a lot going on in this one here. Now, I think NPS doesn't necessarily capture the most recent activity, but I think it can suffer from what we call the peak end rule, which is that people tend to remember or think about or focus on either the most recent thing that happened or the most dramatic, whether that was dramatically good or dramatically bad. That peak of positivity, peak of negativity. So I think that with NPS, it could really be any of these things. I remember a few months ago, a company sent me an NPS survey and I gave them an 8. The next day, their servers went down, and their servers went down for almost a day. And I wrote them back and I said, "Want to send me that NPS again now?" You want to know how much? So that's I'm being very peak end. I'm not looking at my entire time, which is literally years with this company, and saying, you know what? Overall, I've been pretty happy with them. I might have given them a lower score in the moment because I was so unhappy with their servers going down for a day. Let's see. Ana Lucia says, "Hello, everyone. I lost track of time. I still made it." Margaret says, "Yo, popping in from Art Summit NYC, checking in on what says the survey." Well, the survey might not say anything helpful because we're talking about NPS. So NPS can be skewed to a recent experience if people are doing kind of a peak end rule thing. Otherwise, if people are thinking about the full experience with your organization across lots of stuff, then maybe it's fair. But again, that's still a difficult survey for it to be actionable. I don't know if he says that these things aren't actionable because if someone gives us a 3, what's going wrong? We don't even know what's going wrong or how to fix it. He also says Jared Spool suggests the best research questions are about past behavior, not future behavior. So I think I would agree with Jared in that we don't like to ask about future behavior because it's hard to predict what someone might do in the future. People are bad at predicting their own future behaviors, but I wouldn't necessarily say the best research questions are about past behavior. I always feel like the best research questions are, how could this be improved? But we can move on since that's not a key point here. We can't reduce UX to a single number. We need to combine qualitative and quantitative insights to capture the quality of UX. We can use top tasks methodology and design KPIs to measure individual interactions with our product, site, and the brand. Choose metrics that matter for your product. Itamar Gilad suggests the core mission of every company is to deliver value and capture value back. We need to define both. In his article, he reviews North Star metric and top KPI. Yeah, and again, these are things I go over in chapter 8 of my new book, Customers Know You Suck. So those of you who've read it already have some of my opinions on good and bad metrics. Ultimately, my advice on NPS, while I agree with pretty much everything going on here, my advice for NPS would be if your company is using it, and many companies use it and they still love it, they swear by it, it's in every PowerPoint presentation, somebody wants to talk about the NPS, then I say fine, let them do NPS. It might hurt relationships to show up to someone else's department and say, "I hate your scoring system." You know what? Let them have their scoring system, but ask them why questions. Say, okay, our NPS went down, or our NPS stayed the same, or we're getting a lot of low scores on NPS. Do we know why? And more importantly, have we done anything about that? Because as I talk about in my book, there are companies who know that they suck. Sometimes they know why they suck, and they're not doing anything. They just hope the NPS score goes up and everybody looks good. And that's unlikely to happen. That's a lot of wishing. So if companies use NPS, let them use it. You can speak out against it if you want, but I would say let's use it as a jumping off point for a larger conversation. I have an example in my book where I talk about a company where when customers signed the contract, their NPS was like 50, which is really quite good if you think about the score being negative 100 to 100. But then when it was time to renew the contract and see if people would sign on again, the NPS was negative 25. That's how much they had dropped. That's how much people didn't like actually having worked with them. That's a conversation starter. And again, we might not have been able to start that conversation if we didn't have some sort of survey data, NPS or otherwise. So while I don't love surveys, I think they can be conversation starters. Okay. Here is a post where someone is referencing a podcast Jared Spool did. Of course, I didn't listen to it, so if any of you listened to it, please let me know more about what Spool is saying here. This was from Aurelius's podcast, and this is some guy named Brad Orego. I don't know who Brad is. And he says, I love Jared Spool's point about recommendations. Anyone who's worked with me, and according to his tagline here, he's a UX leader and a UX researcher. Anyone who's worked with me knows I've been saying for years that our job isn't to make recommendations because we don't own the decision or the consequences of it. It's our job to gather data and present insights. The power we wield as researchers is crafting and controlling the narrative that influences those decisions. Now, I found a lot of things wrong with what Brad said, which made me think part of it was me disagreeing with Brad, but possibly me disagreeing with whatever Spool said that made Brad say this. So I want to hear from you in the audience. Did you see this post? Did you listen to this podcast with Spool? Fill in some of your thoughts here while I take a quick drink and wait for everybody to catch up because we're 40 seconds delayed. And then we've got two more, so we should end on time today. Anybody want to add something here? Thoughts? Comments? Questions? Concerns? Anything you notice? Ana Lucia says, but a recommendation isn't necessarily a decision. You can make a recommendation. The C-suite may or may not make a decision based on it. I agree. I don't think there's anything that should stop us from making a recommendation or a suggestion. Certainly not as UX researchers and certainly not as UX leaders. Johnny says, very entertaining to watch Debbie drinking water. It's definitely not. I drink water in every show. This is my medium-sized cup that I bring in the camper. The exciting water drinking scene. So I certainly agree. I don't think obviously we're not getting the whole podcast here. I didn't read the transcript, so I am coming into this a bit cold. I am lacking information. I put that out there. However, based on what I'm seeing here, I can't think of a good reason for a UX researcher to not make a recommendation. Now, there's recommendations and there's recommendations. I'm not suggesting that you go and sketch screens and do design and say the product has to look like this, but you can still make recommendations. Now that we've done this research and we have these insights and we've learned this about our target audiences and we have these typologies or profiles or personas, and we have this evidence and information and these insights, here's what I recommend. Here's what I think are our priorities. Here's what I think is going to really impact the user the most. Here's what I think is going to bring the business more money and more success. Whatever it is. I can't think of a good reason for us to not make recommendations, and especially in a world where we're being told we're not bringing enough value. Why are you here? Explain your job. Why are you here? You're not bringing value. You're not delivering value. Shouldn't we be delivering more value? And some of that value would be in the form of being that trusted advisor. I'm not the only one saying this. We've heard it from other people on this show as well. But let me talk about some other things that I notice here that made me wonder a lot of stuff. And really, you can see what I was thinking if I read you my response to this post. And my response says, I don't plan to listen to this since I'm on a spool-free diet, but based on your post, am I right in hearing that, 1, the guy who recently said that UX research should be in charge of everything, with everybody answering to them. Remember, Jared Spool wrote an article saying, like, everybody should answer to UX research, product managers, engineers, everybody. I think we talked about that one already. So the guy who said UX research should be in charge of everybody and everything also thinks researchers shouldn't make suggestions or recommendations. That just doesn't sound right to me. It just doesn't click. Number 2, the guy trying to sell people on all of his webinars and courses that previously disempowered us but are now about empowering us just wants us to be tactical but not strategic. We can be tactical. We can conduct research. We can tell people what we found and give them some insights and say, good luck. You do something with this. You make some decisions. You do the. I'll be over here if you need me again. I'm not very strategic. I'm not part of any kind of prioritizations or strategies or decisions. You go ahead. I think that's very disempowering to us. And is that what Spool is saying? Octavio says, Hi, Debbie. I have a slightly out of context question. Where does the hypothesis go before or after the investigation, or can we have a hypothesis after Discovery Quadrant? Completely out of context. We do have both a show on the Quadrant, episode, was it 190? And then we do have an episode on how you can do research when you don't even have a hypothesis or a solution in mind yet. So remember that in the scientific method, hypothesis is step 3. Step 1 is observe and research. Step 2 is figure out what the problems are or form a question. Step 3 is come up with a hypothesis that might answer that question. So ultimately, if we start with a hypothesis, we've missed a lot of observations and research and learning that the scientific method recommends. So that would be my recommendation. Ana Lucia says, then this person thinks we should only research, as in you do the technical part and that's it, keeping away from the business and all that, not trying to tie stuff to business goals. Ana Lucia, that was kind of my question too. Why wouldn't we be strategic? Why wouldn't we want to be part of those business conversations? So continuing what I said, number 3, we're being laid off in record numbers, and some say it's because we don't bring and show enough value. But the advice here is to just provide insights and let others make decisions. Again, it sounds like we're working against our own value. Some of our value can be in that advice or consulting or recommendations. Why wouldn't we give them? Number 4, so this Brad guy, who I don't know, said, it's our job to gather data and present insights. The power we wield as researchers is crafting and controlling the narrative that influences those decisions. So I said, isn't the narrative that influences decisions essentially our suggestions, our point of view, our advice? Isn't that the narrative? The narrative can't just be, people said this and I found this. Thank you for coming. So I said, we should be fighting to be strategic and part of these decisions. I want to own the consequences. I want us to be held accountable. If we had more accountability around UX design and product strategy, we'd then be more likely to be understood, get the resources we need, and not be seen as a pair of hands doing tactical work. Make recommendations that are evidence-based. Bring value and show your value. You're not just a tactical foot soldier. Now he replied, and he said, I've never been seen as a pair of hands doing tactical work. Now, I don't know how he knows that. I don't know how he knows how other people see him. I've been alive for decades, and I can tell you, sometimes I know how other people see me, and sometimes I don't. So I don't know how he is so sure that he's never been seen as a pair of hands or just a tactical worker. There's a good chance he might have been. I'm sorry, he's got a they pronoun. They have, sorry, I'm just seeing that now. They've been treated that way or seen that way. But they continue. I haven't made a recommendation in years. Okay, why? Why not? Are you proud of that? That seems very strange. You're saying you're a UX leader. You're a UX leader and researcher, and you're not making recommendations? You're a leader and you're not part of decisions? I don't get this. And it sounds like this person's proud of this. Ana Lucia says, we found that people do this and need that. Our competitive analysis also shows this isn't being considered by our competitors. As such, we advise that our solution meets this an unmet need. Is that even offensive? No, of course not. Brad continues and I apologize again for misgendering him. I didn't see the they, them until now. You saw it on my screen as well, so I promise to get that right. I've seen dozens of fundamental strategy shifts as a result of my work, which is great that they've worked in a place where they've taken research seriously and made some changes. And I've presented findings to industry consortiums, which again isn't necessarily anything. That's like when people say, I've spoken at conferences, and I go, cool. How nice for you. But again, you presented findings at consortiums, but you didn't make any recommendations. never make a recommendation. And then, of course, it gets a little ad hominem. It wouldn't be a day on LinkedIn without it. I'm not entirely sure what you're trying to accomplish here. Are you trying to foster discussion, or are you just trolling and flame posting? Womp womp. Bring out the triangle. I said, I'm not a troll or flame poster. I'm asking a set of serious questions. You don't have to answer them, but the questions still stand. And I wonder how much more you could have affected if you had made recommendations. If you're specifically avoiding making recommendations, why not try it? LinkedIn says you're a leader. They should listen to you. You can probably get even more done, do it well, help users and customers more, and help prove or show the value of UX. I hope this person will try to make some recommendations. I don't know why this person is avoiding them or why they think they don't have to. As a leader, I'm very surprised that this person, it seems content to not make a decision and not want to be involved in consequences of decisions. I think we have to run straight into that. I would love to be held responsible. I would love to be involved in the consequences of decisions. So, um, I disagree. Ana Lucia says, apparently they don't think a researcher should do this. This doesn't make any sense. Even in a scientific article, the researchers usually add a conclusion where they recommend further research. So true. You're totally right. That's true. Very often in academic research, there's a conclusion with a recommendation that we should really research more. Totally good point there. Okay, we've got one more. This one is another Medium article published in Boot Camp. Again, Boot Camp, dubious quality. This could be a great article or not a great article. We never really know. I also don't think I know this person. Josh Davey, not familiar. AI or Die. How do we feel about that title? Um, I think that this is the type of thing I've been seeing a lot of lately, and here's what it tells me, just as a critical thinker. If you have to bully me into using AI, then it sounds like the selling points aren't there yet. Hypothetically, I should be excited to use AI because it's that great, because it really helps me and it's really accurate and they've nailed down privacy and security. You shouldn't have to bully me into this where it's like, hey, I've been seeing also on LinkedIn, like, yeah, use AI or else you'll be left behind. Left behind in what way? Some car is driving away without me. What does being left behind even look like? I see a lot of these very strange things, and make sure when you see them, you use your critical thinking. It's a little bit gaslighty to be like, hey, if you're not using AI, you're some sort of old fashioned dinosaur loser. And so be careful of this, AI or die. Unlikely that's the case, but let's see what this person has to say. In a fast paced world of product development, the line between success and failure often hinges on user research. But what if the tried methods we rely on now are letting us down? And could AI offer a solution? So I think that's a question that requires a question. What if are our research methods letting us down? Now, with all of the conversations we've had here on the show, with the experts we've brought in, with the things I see posted to LinkedIn, the things I see in our Slack and Discord communities, the conversations many of you have had with me privately, I have not yet had a conversation in my entire almost 30-year career where someone said, my research methods are really letting me down. My methods are the problem. These methods are bad. That's not what I'm finding is the real problem. Yeah, Ana Lucia says our methods are letting us down. Really? Right. So I feel like this person has set up a false problem. Kind of like, an infomercial like, oh my God, are you tired of not drinking out of a giant blue cup? No, you weren't even having that problem. So I'm concerned for this article in that I think it sets up a question that already isn't true. I think the things that let us down the most are people not understanding our jobs, people not giving us time, people not giving us autonomy. We want to run a good generative study that requires weeks. They want us to take one day and run a survey. That's not the method's fault. That's somebody else's fault. That's a decision maker's fault. So we're already in the first sentence of the article, and I don't agree with his foundations. And I apologize, I'm using a he pronoun. I didn't see pronouns on this page, so please excuse me if this is not the correct pronouns for this person. Maybe I'll just use they to be safe. So they, in their first sentence, have already set up that something that I don't believe or agree with. User research was formed long before the digital era. So it sounds like this person's trying to say user research is just so old and outdated and we're just from some other era. Today, the tried user research methods, he's linking to a PDF from NNG. So evidently, it's what? Every method? Often characterized by long timelines and deep episodic inquiries, are increasingly unable to keep pace with the speed of modern product delivery. Okay, this is a completely separate article. There's a difference between our methods are letting us down and the teams we work with don't want to give us time to do quality work, which might take weeks. Might not take months, might not take years, but it's not going to take hours. It might not take days. So again, I think this person is setting up different premises, but they're not really sustaining each other. I don't think our methods are letting us down, and I don't think the problem with research is that it can't keep pace. I think the problem is that the pace is unreasonable. If this person is, again, we know that this person is trying to say the solution is AI. So it sounds like they've created kind of a false problem statement where our biggest problem in research is our methods are letting us down and we're just too slow. And I understand that that can be a perception of us, but that doesn't mean that that's the reality. I still would say that the amount of time we take to do research is quite reasonable, and it's our teammates who have unreasonable timelines and requests. Some of you have heard that I've accepted a new job, though I haven't started it yet. One of my questions during interviews was, when you're doing a generative study, how much time do you like to spend on that study? I said, well, I like to get a few assistants to help me out, maybe 2 junior people, and I would like to take 6 weeks. And they said, oh, that's great. We usually spend 6 weeks on generative research. So is the method the problem? No. Am I having problems keeping pace? Not if my workplace appreciates a proper generative research study, which is one of the many reasons I'm excited to work there, and I will eventually tell you who they are, but not yet. So again, I feel like the premises this person has set up are not our biggest problem or not the right perspective on the problem. Now it says back in 2012, Marty Kagan, who many of you know I'm not a fan of, emphasized the need for modern user research to evolve and align more closely with the rapid iterative nature of today's product development. Now, again, this is 2012, and if you think about what research was at some companies in 2012, many companies had R&D departments, research and development, and this meant that they had teams of people whose job it was to create the future. Those people very often spent months and sometimes years researching people, researching technologies, researching materials, and really trying to beat competitors at inventing the future. That was not a fast process. Apple still spends $21 billion a year on R&D. So some people do care about R&D. They do care about doing research well and thoroughly and not the fastest it could be. Hold on, just checking. Okay, just checking that my phone isn't going wild because one of you are messaging me. Ana Lucia says, back in academia, I admit I was pushed into quantitative research. It felt qualitative wasn't seen as good research, but nowadays I completely disagree with this view. It's biased. Shweta says, oh wow, I've never heard of that in my interviews. I know. Also, whenever people bring up Marty Kagan, I always go, it's really interesting that Marty Kagan has all of these perspectives on research because, as far as I can tell, he's never been a researcher. I checked his LinkedIn, and it looks like he was an engineer And then one day he was a product manager. Congratulations. But I don't think he has a background in UX research or anthropology, sociology, any of these things. So, and remember, he says, I encourage teams to do continuous product discovery where we're constantly identifying, validating, and describing new product backlog items. You can certainly do continuous product discovery. I'm in theory not against researchers constantly doing some sort of generative research. We just have to define what he means by teams, because to me it's a team of researchers who are qualified to do this work. The 16th annual State of Agile report, which again, these seem like cherry-picked examples of from people who are against us. Marty Kagan is not a supporter of UX from what I've heard of his trainings and his book. Agile is not a supporter of UX. So, why are we cherry picking these things that we know are against us and think so little of us? Shweta says, are you traveling? Your background is different. Yes, I'm in my camper. We're on a working vacation. Um, User interviews are time consuming and they're waterfall. Again, I'm going to be writing another article on this coming up soon because I had a fight with a guy a week or two ago at an Agile conference where he tried to tell me again, UX is waterfall. UX isn't waterfall. Look, if 6 to 10 engineers taking 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 weeks to do something is not waterfall and it's Agile, then 1 to 5 UX practitioners taking weeks to do something is not waterfall and can also be Agile. We must really be careful of these double standards. But again, I think he's throwing these words in for SEO at this point. So, streamline user research. That is not my rallying cry. If that's his rallying cry, that's fine. He's just somebody I wouldn't end up hiring or working for or working with. I don't believe user research needs to be streamlined. I think, depending upon the study, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks can be reasonable. More can sometimes be reasonable. Less can also be reasonable. There's a bug in here. But, just to say blankly and generally, hey, it needs to be streamlined. Well, what is it? What is this thing that needs to be streamlined? Are you saying my 6-week project needs to be streamlined? Are you saying a 2-year project needs to be streamlined? This is all just very general, so it's hard to disagree with it when we don't even know what he's fully talking about. Shweta says, you can make up anything to suit your beliefs if you believe you're right. Confirmation bias. So again, if we just kind of blow past what he's saying, he's saying 1 researcher, 5 designers, 100 developers. And again, my response to things like that has been hire more researchers and designers. I want to see 3 researchers and 2 designers in teams of 5 for every team, an agile team, a scrum team, a project team, a product team, whatever you call it. I want to see 5 UX people dedicated to that team. That would be fast, that would be agile, that wouldn't be waterfall, but everybody instead says, no, don't hire more people, just use AI. And that's probably where this guy is going, but it's unfortunate because it really works against us. It sells us out. And of course, it runs the risk that people read this and go, yeah, we don't need these UX people. We can just do all this with AI. Johnny says, I've encountered product managers doing their own user research, which is terrible, and use it. What should you do if you collaborate with such PMs? Yeah, it's hard. It's a difficult question. What do you do when you see someone trying to do something badly? Do you have a good enough relationship with them to say, I think this could have been better. Are you open to some feedback about this? Do you bring in your manager and say, hey, manager, this PM is doing this research and it was so bad it set us up for failure. What can we do differently in the future? Is it something you can bring up in an Agile Retro? The Agile Retro is supposed to be about talking about what didn't go well in that sprint or release or whatever and how we could do better. Maybe somebody needs to talk about how the user research was flawed and gave us bad information or wrong information. Shweta says, Why do I find what you say so hard to believe? Unfortunately, it's because we've been conditioned to think UXR is the minority and we don't get enough resources and time. We don't get enough resources and time, but we're constantly being gaslit that we're slow and we don't bring value. But it's ridiculous. It's like people who. Nah, I'm not even going to say it. All right, let's move on. Yeah, product teams are pressed for time and simply can't access researchers. Again, it's not that simple. Product teams choose to not hire researchers. Companies could allocate budget to researchers if they understood the value of research. But because we keep minimizing researchers and especially saying, oh, AI can do all this, then we're going to see even fewer researchers. We've seen a lot of researchers laid off in the last year, and many of those jobs haven't come back from what I'm seeing. So, congratulations to this author for being one of the voices helping companies believe that they really don't need more researchers. Ultimately, this guy should be writing this article, and his kind of actionable suggestion should be you really need to hire more researchers. This is how important they are, and this is how important this work is. You need more of these people. Instead, it sounds like he's saying AI or die, which is so inflammatory. User research cadence falls into 1 to 3 categories: episodic research, ad hoc research, no research. What's his point? I think he threw those in for SEO. The case for embracing AI in user research. So again, I'm currently 100% against this, with the rare exception of some people who've told me that they are dyslexic or have ADHD or certain diagnoses, find that they need a little help crafting their questions, but I would still say that AI isn't a trained user researcher, and if you need help crafting questions, ask a mentor, ask an expert. I wouldn't ask AI on this one. So let's see. He says enablers augment existing research methods. Transcription, which can definitely be done by computers, though I wouldn't say it's AI, it's just good computers that do speech to text. Data aggregation, he's linking to things. He's linking to Otter for transcription, though I find the Otter's, I use Otter, but it's not the best. Data aggregation and insight synthesis, and he's showing Dovetail. Doers have greater autonomy executing activities that were traditionally human-led. Validly uses AI to conduct user interview for you, deploying autonomous agents to interview multiple participants simultaneously. Sure, let's see what that does. So you're going to have people talk to a bot? There you go. Look at this. Just what we needed. You don't need to interview users. You can have a chatbot ask them about their shopping experience. This chatbot will surely capture all of the nuance of what people are saying. Yes, I'm being sarcastic. And that chatbot will surely catch all of the insights we would need. Yeah. Pierre says, democratization, lean UX never surprised us with their arguments. There's not enough user research to run research. Since when is this an unchangeable law? Why don't we hire more researchers? Totally, Pierre. I don't get it. So, again, I think we can stop reading this guy's article. He's been posting it in response to a whole bunch of stuff. So maybe he, set the paywall to it and he wants the money from it. But AI is the path forward. It might be. I imagine a future where it is helpful to us, but it's not there now. I would not recommend replacing any UX or CX research activity with anything he's saying other than it's great to get some transcription help. We don't need to transcribe stuff anymore. There are lots of tools out there, including Dovetail, hashtag not sponsored, that can do transcriptions that are reasonably accurate in a short amount of time. Anne says, I solemnly swear never to build a bot like that. Yes, and Anne would know. Anne's becoming the bot expert. So I think we can stop with this. What else did this guy wrote to me? And what else? Oh, this story is from the founder of Validly. Oh my God, everybody. We've been had. Oh my God, he wrote all of that crap just to plug his company. Oh my God, you can use validly. Oh, Jesus, we've been had. Oh, I am so sorry I wasted everybody's time going through that article when it was just an advertorial, as we call it in America. Oh, how do you unclap here? How do you tell this guy this was bad? He just left a comment in one of my articles and he posted a link to this, and what did he claim this was going to be? I'm trying to remember. He tried to tell me that AI was going to be good for, oh, what was it? Let me see if I can find it in my discarded emails because it would have come to me in an email. Meanwhile, talk amongst yourselves about what you think about this article now that you know what it's about. Where is it? Where is the Medium notification that this guy... Usually I get these notifications that, this guy commented on your article, and he did. Ah, here it is. He said, oh, replacing participants with AI is a form of desk research. I'll let you all comment on that. Is replacing users and humans in user and human research a form of desk research? Go. What do y'all think? I know we're 40 seconds apart. I want to hear what you think. Is replacing AI participants, replacing users with AI participants a form of desk research? No, says Anne. Ana Lucia says, I don't even have words for this. So ultimately, that guy's article was a giant plug for his service. I find his service, at least in June 2023, not something I would recommend. I don't even recommend trying it. I don't recommend that you have a chatbot ask real users questions. I don't recommend that you have a chatbot ask AI fake archetype users questions. They're not even users. Johnny says everything made sense till the end of that article, right? It's like it's like some sort of movie where the guy rips off his mask at the end, and it's like, oh, damn it. Cam says, how could someone suggest that? Yeah. Anne says humans are humans. AI is AI. End of story. AI is not even AI. AI is not artificially intelligent. We're using that term, and I don't even know why. It's still machine learning. It's just machines trained on models. And in many cases, these are racist, shitty models. Yeah, Ana Lucia says Uno reverse card. Perfect. Yes, it's the end of the action movie. I was the bad guy all along. Whereas Ryan George says, and then we find out that the bad guy was the bad guy. Yeah. Right. Ugh. Oh, hi, Drew. Always happy to see Drew here. Drew is such a fantastic expert on accessibility and UX stuff. A lot of companies seem to be looking at AI to streamline process it's already harming marginalized users. Absolutely, exactly. So much of this machine learning is trained on crappy models and racism, sexism, ableism, and all kinds of really bad stuff that we don't want machines repeating. We've talked about it so much on this channel. I'm sure we'll talk about it more. It's not going away. But AI, in my opinion, at least for these purposes, is just not ready for prime time, as we say. Um, I don't want any of this, and I don't want to see UX research. Here, this guy, let's take a quick look. What was his name? Josh Davey. Let's see if he has a background in UX research. Because now we want to know that, right? Is the guy telling us how to do better UX research an experienced UX researcher? What was it? John Davey Validly? Was that was the name of it? Validly? Reminds me when my previous boyfriend would joke about how everyone ran out of names and started just naming everything with uh, uh, adverbs. I can't find him. Was it John Davy? Let me. Josh Davy. Okay, give me a second. I'm trying to find him on the LinkedIn. And if I find something good, I'll share my screen again. Wow, I really can't spell anything today. I must be on vacation. Josh Davy. Validly. Alrighty. Okay, so what am I missing from the chat room? I wasn't looking. Also, is reposting an article written by someone else something that Medium allows? It's quite unethical. Did someone repost someone's article? Anne says, the best thing for me so far is being able to have ChatGPT explain complicated things on a 6th grade level, provided it doesn't hallucinate, right? All right, let's go back to screen sharing. Founder at Validly. Consultant, extremely mysterious. Co-founder, cities are congested, unaffordable, inaccessible, and not meeting the needs of independent and remote workers. We're leasing properties in real estate areas. So he was the co-founder, now he's not. Co-founder and director, build and scale internal design and customer experience talent. Okay. Now we're going back to some of these design lead, design director, design lead and design director. Does the word research appear? I worked tirelessly to master the technical discipline of user research. I would say he needs more time with user research. Because if you think that you can break it down to an AI chatbot, I would say you don't understand UX research. But looking at your LinkedIn shows me you're a serial entrepreneur and you saw an opportunity. I get it. You're not the only one right now trying to sell AI for UX research, but we're not your target audience. We want to do UX research correctly. So are you going to sell this to non-UX teams? Are you going to sell this to marketing and product managers and further get us laid off? What are the possible outcomes? Ana Lucia. Oh, it's not a repost. I forgot the name of the author. Yes, so did I. Josh Davy. So yeah, that is it for critical thinking today. Thanks for staying a little bit late. That last one was pretty wacky. We don't usually make it through an entire article, and now I'm sorry I did. So let's take a look at our upcoming schedule because, as I mentioned, I am on a working vacation, so we're doing some shows, but not all shows. So let's see. Next week, we have Tuesday's show for Office Hours Ask Me Anything. Just the usual time one, 6:30 p.m. Italy time. I will be in Germany. We'll be at our third campground. Hopefully it will be lovely and I'll be outside and give you another view. And then I don't have a Friday show, but I might want to spontaneously create one because I am spending Friday and hopefully some of the weekend with possibly everybody's favorite person other than my husband, Stephanie Walter. Yes, we are slowly making our way in our camper up to Luxembourg to meet Stephanie Walter plus her cool boyfriend, as I like to call him, King Jeffrey. Hey, Credence. Um, I think that Stephanie and I should put together an in-person live thing, but I haven't spoken to her about that yet. If she's watching now, she's probably going, "What the fuck?" So hopefully she's up for something other than bicycling with us, which we are also planning. She inspired us to get e-bikes. She's very inspiring. It's only inspiration if you go and do something. When people go, "Oh, there's that person so inspiring," and then you don't do anything, that's not inspiring. That's just nice. But Stephanie inspired us when we bought e-bikes. Oh yes, love Stephanie. Yeah, everyone loves Stephanie. So we're so excited to meet her in person. We've never met her, and to see Luxembourg through her lens. And I will see if she's up for an impromptu Friday live just talk some crap kind of show. So I'll write to her now. But we'll see. Definitely, I'll see you all Tuesday for Office Hours Ask Me Anything. You can send your questions in ahead of time if you'd like to deltacx.com/links. Your questions will be answered in the order in which I get them, even if you are not there live to hear it. It'll still be in the recording, and all of our shows are archived on YouTube. So you can always find YouTube, Delta CX. Please subscribe and tell your friends about the channel. We're still coming up to 7,000 subscribers. We're still shadow banned, so we need all the help and love that you can give. All right, I'm gonna get back to some sort of vacation. It's going so-so. The places we're visiting are nice. Our fridge isn't totally working, so that's making shopping and eating a little interesting. But yeah, so I hope everybody has a super weekend and just has some fun and relax and I'm around on Slack if anyone needs me. Otherwise, I'm not on LinkedIn as much. It's just a little sad, isn't it? LinkedIn's not as helpful and inspiring as it used to be, but that's my opinion. I hope it turns around soon. Just realized you're streaming in a van. It's technically not a van. It is a camper. Hold on, let me hold up a picture. I don't have stuff ready to show everybody, so let's see. Picture of camper that I took yesterday as we pulled into this campground. That's us. That's McLouie. So, yes, so I am in a camper. Everything looks like it's padded because that's a bunch of things that block our front windows so people don't look right into our front windows and see our stuff. And now Pier Mario is coming back. So signing off, everybody. Thanks for a great show. Keep sending in your stuff for future critical thinking shows. We'll have our next one probably in 2 weeks. I usually do them every other week. So hey, everybody. See you soon. Bye. Customer centricity as business intelligence. Visit deltacx.com to learn why we are